This week on Lemon's Car Spotting.
Hey everybody, it is Eric and it is Nick, and we are going to do Lemon's Car Spotting. Without further ado.
Oh, here we go.
There we go.
Oh, man. You know, this is such a common scene for so long where, like, you could drive in any street in any place in America and see a couple of abandoned old air-cooled Volkswagens. Not so common anymore, but also not unheard of, apparently, because this is Big Rig Butters from Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. I'm getting real sort of Appalachia vibes from this. Which is to say, you know, very gray, rusty looking locale. I will say two Beetles and a squareback or fastback, can't tell from this angle. Fastback looks like it may run. Beetles look like they do not run. There you go.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing about Beetles is a lot of the ones that look like they run don't run, and a lot of the ones that look like they shouldn't run perfectly. So I don't know.
That's a good point.
I think the Type 3 there is the show car, and then, you know, as anybody with this quote unquote serious car hobby knows, you have to have several of them to keep one running. So I would guess those are some parts donors, more or less. But definitely somebody with a type, I guess.
Yeah,
a bad pun. So
yeah.
All right, there it is.
You're gonna have a type. There are worse choices to make, I think. Air-cooled Beetles or Volkswagens, very charming.
Man, speaking of having a worse type, now I do remember reading this post when I was pulling the photos, and it was fascinating to me. So we'll get into that in a minute. But this is obviously an SRT-4 in the eye-searing orange to let everybody know that you have an SRT-4, and I'm sure that has a very loud exhaust.
Yep.
And so on and so forth. And usually these being driven by somebody who has questionable understanding of a manual transmission. But, there it is. Now, it has the hood scoop, which suggests a turbo, and as Southern Ohio Backroads pointed out, there was also an SRT design package, which was the dress-up SRT-4 package with the base model everything, which is an extra kind of sad. that is truly Stellantis at its peak.
To be fair, there are certainly other examples of car companies doing that. I mean, the first one that jumps to my mind is that, was it the 911 SC, where you could get the wide body and whale tail on the regular SC, even though it wasn't a turbo. So whatever that was called, turbo look, I think that was called. So, it's not unprecedented. And for some cars, there's a lot of logic to I don't need it to go 200 miles an hour. I want it to get better gas mileage and be cheaper. For a Neon, the only reason, and it's a dubious reason, to get one is to get the SRT-4 because it's fast. Right. To just get the stupid looks, because realistically, the SRT-4 looks hella dumb. And, you get it because it's got the ridiculous powertrain. And so to get the looks without that is really just a bummer.
Yeah, 100% agree. The SRT-4 is maybe the dumbest car built in the last 25 years.
It's remarkably dumb. It has, I drove one. I was writing for magazines at the time and drove one as part of a review. The two things that stood out to me immediately was, man, this thing has a lot of power going to the right front tire and the right front tire only. And it's very apparent every time you step on the gas, that right front tire is going wherever it wants to go. The rest of everything else is along for the ride. And then the other thing that really stood out was the carbon fiber print shift boot.
Yeah.
It was a rubberized carbon fiber material. Oh, buddy. All right.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got, not to be ageist, we've got ourselves a coot. Because who else would do this? Well, you've got a Park Avenue Buick, which is the daily driver. Then you've got the super cool, whatever you call that, Zephyr coupe thing, with sort of the fastback, Fox chassis, Ford, whatever. That one's super cool. We've had a couple of them in lemons. There was one that used to run in Texas that was like set up pretty well, had, lowered, stiffer suspension, big steel wheels on it. And then just like that thing was kind of sweet. And we've said it a million times. If you're going to race a Fox chassis, get one of the weird, obscure non-Mustang versions. And then I don't know what's behind that. According to the caption, it's another Zephyr. A sedan version. Yeah. I also like the color, like, this person likes red cars. I didn't know that the Park Avenue was available in red.
Yeah,
and
I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't, but I like this arrangement. You could have a worse collection.
Yeah, 100% agree. And yeah, I don't think that they ever sold that Buick in that color. And if they did, it was a different color that is sun faded. I just noticed the roof rack on it, which suggests, perhaps an active coot.
Yeah.
Or, as somebody my age who is older than their years, perhaps. But a
young coot.
A young coot, yes. Yeah. Which is odd that he doesn't have a Triumph TR3A, but yeah. What are you going to do? This is a fantastic trio of cars. Really interesting that they've crossed the Ford General Motors demarcation zone to obtain a Buick to go along with their Mercury.
That's a good point. I mean, this really screams out for a red with a white top Grandma Keith. But, there you go. All right, next up.
Ooh. Is this a 323?
Oh, it's a Tercel, I believe.
Tercel. Oh man. It is a car Eric never saw as a child. I will say that. This era of hatchback was very common where I grew up, but they were all of the big threes version of them, because you wouldn't dare buy a Japanese Econo box in the Midwest. Most of what I saw were, Omnis, Horizons, lots of Escorts, Chevettes, et cetera, et cetera. So this is kind of I don't know anything about these. They're tiny. It's a hatchback, probably a 4-speed, like a 1.2 liter maybe, and it probably got 1 billion miles per gallon, and obviously is still running, which is, several improvements over the big threes versions of them.
Yeah, well, conversely, these were everywhere. For me growing up, that doesn't make me any more knowledge,able about them. I want to say they had an A series motor, which is a Toyota family that they made forever. The big distinction from the previous generation, like Corolla, the A series is overhead cam, and the T series, which was the predecessor, is a pushrod motor. So I don't think this car ever had that. It was new enough and advanced enough to have the single overhead cam. But yeah, it's a 1.2, 1.3, probably, on the order of 60 horsepower. Somehow runs forever, despite likely being driven at near full throttle everywhere it goes, just to keep up with traffic. Yeah. We've seen a handful of Tercels in lemons, never one of this generation. Great cars. Just an honesty, just a real workhorse machine. I like them.
Yeah, need more of these in lemons.
Yeah. Now, speaking of TRs. This is a TR6. And I like the TR6. That's the disclaimer, because I'm about to dump on it. I just did a vintage car tour on Super Bowl Sunday, and there was TR6. And then one of my buddies was, what's the deal with the TR6? And I'm not a TR6 expert, but What I do know, he was pointing out like the proportions are really weird on them. Like they're super narrow, but like they look like, yeah, they're long and they're kind of tall, but I mean, they're narrow. Like you can sort of tell in this parking lot, like how much space between the lines you've got. And that's because this chassis is essentially the same as the TR4 and TR5, which we didn't get. We got the TR250, I believe. In any case, it's like a real 60s car that got slowly updated to the 70s. And then, so here comes the dumping on part. My friend says, oh, well, so it's worse than a TR4. Like, well, yeah, I would say it's not quite as cool as a TR4. That doesn't make it not cool, though, especially from the front. I feel like in the back, it starts to get real, corporate British Leyland of the 70s, which is maybe not a good thing. In the front, it looks pretty sharp. Obviously, this dude has removed the bumper. He's put on the Bob Tullius Group 44 bonnet stripe, which adds a thing. They have the crazy proportion, like super high sidewall tires. It's very cartoonish, these things. And a straight six. Did we get the fuel injected one here? I don't think we did. That was one of those weird, like they had mechanical fuel injection in Europe, which was better than the SU carburetors, but there was some weird emissions thing where they couldn't certify it, like both, weird, unnecessarily complicated rules on the US side, and then British Leyland's inability to like pay the fee to go through the certification, and then like, all right, what if we would just put the SUs on it? For my horrible British accent of the day. So that's what you wound up with, but it's a straight six in a little car. What's not to like?
Yeah, I mean, choosing between SUs and 1970s British mechanical fuel injection is like picking between getting shot and getting stabbed. Like,
yeah, that's fair. I think it was Lucas fuel injection on top of that.
But we haven't had a TR6 in lemons in a long time. We've had a ton of TR7s and 8s. Which, man, we'll talk about those. Those will come up on here at some point.
And I'm sure we'll see one.
Those. But bring one of these to lemons. So they're out there. I mean, every British car is out there in numbers still. So
Yep. All right. Last
man.
cars of the week.
Wow, what a pair. Man, which one should I start on? I guess I'll start with the one that somebody in the world might actually want, which is the Mustang 2 in the background, on pretty good wheels, frankly. Hood is ratchet strapped down. Lots of good signs going on there. And then next to it is a run-of-the-mill 97 Lumina that looks to have been the shooting car. See bullet holes in the door, and some tannerite probably went off on the windshield. Back roads of Eastern Washington. This is obviously out into the high desert in Washington somewhere. Man. I don't know what to say. These are both spectacular cars in the most lemony fashion. The Mustang 2, of course, being a massive disappointment following the first couple generations of the Mustang, and the Lumina just being sad 90s GM stuff. Two horrible cars, obviously perfect for lemons.
In the comments on the original post, there's a guy, Don Equus, or a key, whatever. I wish I had a Mustang 2. Some dreams, you just need to go for it. They're attainable.
I mean, even in the inflated used car market, that Mustang 2 right there is a $2,900 car at most. So,
I mentioned it before. Friend and occasional staffer of Lemons, Armin Bengel's Sunbeam Alpine owner, his girlfriend Anya's dream car is a Carmen Ghia, and it's like, Anya, you can make that happen.
That could be a thing. Yeah.
All right, I've got the hooptiest for this week. A Tannerite exploded. Lumina is in the conversation. Similarly abandoned Volkswagens to start, but boy, is there anything more hoopty than an SRT-4 dress-up package that also looks abandoned, if we're being honest. So, I mean, it's we covered it. Well, what do the kids want? Well, they want the hood scoop and the wing and nothing else. And so there you go. That's the hooptiest.
Yeah. Well, Nick, fire up the Daily Double because, this is also the Lemons pick of the week. Tercel, awesome. Lumina, awesome. Mustang 2, awesome. But this is something, it's something. We've had this generation Neon. We've had this generation SRT-4 in Lemons. Pro tip, they do not run away with the race as people would have expected in 2010. Sure but this kind of straddling the line between, ugly, forgettable 2000s commuter car and ugly, forgettable 260 horsepower machine actively trying to kill you, kind of what Lemons is all about.
Yep, that's it. It's looking dumb without the performance that comes with it.
That's exactly it. And the beautiful part of this is you could go buy a 2002 Dodge Neon SXT, which is the base model. You can rattle can it this exact color, and I'm pretty sure you can find an SRT-4 hood and a wing to slap on it, and you can make your own SRT-4 design package.
You can make just a tribute. What do they call that? Not a replica. What do they say in the muscle car world when you're making your Chevelle Super Sport and replica
to clone.
Clone. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. SRT design clone. All right. Well, that's clearly your assignment. While we close for this week, is to start gathering SRT design clone parts. So keep tagging your photos. We'll talk about them on this channel, dude.
SRT design. That was on an order form for the 2005 or whatever Neon. Amazing.
Somebody checked the box.